In this video, I'll show you how to remove a carburetor from a 1978 Honda Express. Now, the reason for this is normally just good maintenance on the machine, but in this case, I believe there's something wrong with the float pin, which is causing gasoline to leak out of an overflow valve, or tube I should say. Basically, when I came back from one of the rides, this tube right here was just leaking gasoline. This goes right into the carburetor, into the bowl. So the only way to shut it off was to turn the petcock. As you can see, I removed one of the plastic plates already. Basically this. Just sat up over it like this. Disconnected the bolt, goes there. See, we've got our carburetor right here. This is the choke connector. That's the accelerator. So right here is gasoline, and oil comes down here, mixes as it goes into the engine. And we can see that tube that I said before that had the gasoline runs up and connects underneath. So first what we do is we take off this plate, take off the air filter on the other side, remove these screws, and then there's 3 bolts here which will allow us to pop it off. We'll just take you through step by step on how to do that. Okay, so now we have the outer cover off. Now inside here you would see the kind of foam mesh air filter that would surround this, and this would cover it here. And what it normally is soaked in oil, so allowing the air to come through, mix with the oil, create the right mix, the engine to fire. Now, right here I have a Honda original manufacturer replacement. It actually comes pre-soaked, you can see. Only cost about $12 with shipping. If you want to see how to get that part, just visit my blog, hondaexpress.blogspot.com. It's also in the description of this video. The next step is we're going to remove these screws here and go on the other side. And there's a couple screws that connect both sides, and we'll pop this off. Okay, we remove the 2 screws from the reverse side. You can see there's a rubber kind of gasket here that seals the air filter. So we just pop that off right there. This isn't the best condition. You can see you probably could scrape this down, use a new paint job, but for the most part everything's intact. The plastic isn't broken, the seal isn't cracked. Okay, now we're at the carburetor. What we're going to do is remove these 2 parts here, and I'm also going to make sure that the petcock, the fuel, is turned off on the petcock valve. There'll probably be a little spillage of gasoline, but that's okay. That's why I have a plastic tray. You can put newspapers or something underneath. Obviously you don't want to be doing this around open flame or anything like that. What you want to do is be careful removing this part. This is our throttle. And you can just give it a quick inspection. Just make sure that these components aren't broken or chipped. Could impede the performance of your Honda Express. See, we got a gasket up in there. Seems good. The spring, everything seems intact. Now I'll remove the choke. I've heard from a lot of people that on their Honda Express mopeds, the choke has gotten rusty on the inside and sealed up. So if you have problems with that, consult some forums, consult my blog. You might even be able to put some liquid wrench on there and get that undone. So you just give it a couple quick turns here. You just want to be very careful pulling it out that you don't break anything. Okay, and here we go. We got the choke. A little bit of rust there, but really good quality. I was surprised. That I think I was expecting more rust. Okay, so now I have those two disconnected. Now what I'm going to do is disconnect the fuel line. Okay, now what you want to do is, I like, taking pictures of each step, especially when I'm going to put it back together. If I forget where a bolt goes, you just want to pay very close attention to the different components as you're removing it. As when you're going to put it back together, get things screwed up. You don't run the cables wrong, because if you run the fuel line in the wrong location, it could rub against something and eventually wear through. But basically, we just have 3 bolts here that are keeping the carburetor on. And here we get a ground switch right here that's connected to the carburetor. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the other 2. And that should actually, here's the fuel line we just took off. That should be it for things connecting the carburetor to the moped. And I'll show you about how to clean that out and clean the components therein. Okay, so now we have the carburetor out. I actually misspoke. There's only 2 bolts you'll need to remove. The third one is holding the mud flap, the rear mud flap, kind of in place. Here in the carburetor, what I'm going to do is remove these 2 bottom screws, which will allow me access and separate the 2 pieces. I get the carburetor open. You can see the float right here. There's the float pin is underneath. A lot of crap in here, a lot of rust, residue from the fuel perhaps. What I'm going to do is remove this part. I'm also going to test the float pin and kind of blow out all the openings and try to clean it out. If the pin isn't working correctly, this is the pin here, could cause problems like the fuel's overflowing in mine, or just poor performance. So what you want to do is clean this off real well, clean the gaskets and all the openings. Spray is something that you might want to wear gloves when doing, which I did not, but it's always good to, because it can get very chemically, give you a headache and whatnot. So I've gone through and I've sprayed out all the openings with the carb spray. Also just used some dish detergent and a toothbrush to scrape out anything else. And what I'm going to do is probably spray it a couple more times with the carb spray, wipe it off, and then use a canned air to blow out all the openings to make sure there's nothing left inside. I will reassemble it and then put it back on the moped. Okay, at this point we've removed the carburetor, removed the bowl from and the float pin, used the carb spray to clean out everything, used a can of compressed air to just spray out everything and clean it real good. So basically we have our finished product here, and what I'm going to do is reinstall it. I'm going to connect the gas line back up, my throttle, my choke, and make sure that all the bolts go back in the same order. This would probably be a good time if you wanted to do more maintenance on your moped, because this exposes a lot of the other components, a lot of the wiring that might need cleaning. But at this point, I just want to get it back on the road. As I said before, the float pin appeared to be sticking. I mean, there's so much corrosion in there and just residue from bad fuel, varnishing from bad fuel, things like that, that it was causing the float to stick, and the fuel was just pouring out. So hopefully that's rectified, and put it back together and test it, find out. As you can see, the Honda Express is working well. It always takes a few kicks to get it started, but acceleration's fine. There's no leaking of fuel. I think this problem's solved.
I don't know, where to begin. We are North America.